100 Children, 100 Stones by Candy Floss Consumer. Chapter 7. 21 Hours and 3 Days. Sakura has been assigned Tazuna duty, not that she particularly minds anymore. The boys still have yet to master the tree-walking exercise, so Kakashi will stay with them until 1000 hours, before bringing them to the burial grounds. Currently, it was 900 hours, roughly 3 hours after they had all gotten up and split for the morning. She has to admit, she was a little jittery. On the islands, when there is a second burning day, the fire that lights the first torch is always a different color. The exact shade determines the state of things that caused such a mass burning. Sakura knows that for Uzushio, it was a bright, wicked green. Greed, with unexplainable flashes of an ugly, dirty brown. Backstabbing. She still remembers the day that Ayumi Oba-san had told her the tale, just a few months after Sakura's parents had passed. The old woman's eyes had been dark and grave. Sakura shivers a bit at the memory. She hopes to never know the horror that brought such a terrible expression to Ayumi's face. But she is a shinobi, and it is likely that she will. She has read all of Konoha's history books, and as awful as it is, mass deaths on the mainland were a trend. Sakura flickers her sensory net, noting that all the builders are accounted for, including Tazuna, the snippy old builder. She had called him a plain old builder just once, and the craftsman got all touchy about being a master builder. Though Sakura internally scoffs, she isn't truly bothered. It was just something to distract herself with. Her mental alarm rang once, her echo moving a bit at the back of her mind. Sakura inhales deeply. It's been 4 days since Zabuza, and she can finally handle the salt permeating the air without coughing. Tazuna's alarm rings not a few seconds later, and all of the builders begin packing up. Sakura exchanges nods with Tazuna and begins heading to the burial grounds. Oddly enough, she can just see the bump of the hill that the grounds are on from the bridge. She supposes that it is an unnecessary observation, but a detail she notices all the same. The Ashioto are waiting for her when she arrives, in a similar formation as the first burning day. There are 6 on either side of the remaining corpses, 12 in all. Each one is stationed at either the beginning or the end of the 6 rows, all perfectly moved into the position of Itawari. Sakura's position remains the same, however. She will split the bodies perfectly down the middle, aligning the pyres of the 13th column. Again, the worry concerning the color of her torch's flame nags at her. She shakes the thought. She has a duty to do. A glance to her left reveals the rest of her team standing where Kakashi and Tazuna's family had yesterday. The group of 3 stand a little to the side, almost mirroring Inari and Tsunami. Tazuna and the rest of the builders have yet to make it. Looking beyond them, Sakura sees the rest of the town in a large crowd. This time some of the kids are mixed in, clenching light green, almost white ribbons in their hands. It's a good sign. Ribbons like those are usually tied to the staves of the sentinels, the role that the Ashioto are upholding. Sakura makes eye contact with one of the kids before nodding. The child brightens, then bolts for the nearest Ashioto. Sakura herself turns back to the seafront. The waves glitter just a bit further southwest of the path's decline. For some reason, the path seems darker than before, as if it had been tread for years, instead of left abandoned for just as long. Sakura goes, knowing that another piece of dry driftwood will be waiting for her, unknowing, however, of what color it will burn. The thought scares her a little, if she's honest with herself, but she needs her echo to hold in that fear, at least until the rites are over, at least until they finish this mission. Something in Sakura knows she might just keep pushing it off, but again, Sakura doesn't have time to think about it. Instead, Sakura takes the last few steps to reach the beach and sees it. The driftwood lies a little further inland than before, but she has no doubt that it has sat there since she threw the children's named stones. Nonetheless, she walks forward, leans down, and picks it up. "Katon, Ember Seedling," Sakura intones for the second time in 2 days. This time, though, the sparks are a dreary gray. They climb up the driftwood, displaying dark red and steel veins of light. Sakura swallows as she connects the meanings. The torch blossoms to life, the flames low and strong. The majority of the fire is gray, but red flickers by every once in a while. Sakura stares, a chill trying to settle into her bones. The gray, isolation. The red, kinslaying. Sakura blinks as the wicked green of Azushio's fire snakes through. Fast but powerful. Greed, she thinks. When a torch for a children's burning day is lit, the flame's color rarely have any deeper meanings. They are almost always soft, happy colors, meant to comfort them on the chance that they have yet to pass on completely. Despite the difference, the burning days of children are still worse, because the fact of the matter is, children died. Sakura turns around and heads to the path. She has already started singing the blessing beneath her breath. "Forgive the dead, they didn't know. O ocean risen through sea and flow." Sakura's voice is quiet as she makes it over the rise. It is not long until she reaches her place. A cursory glance reveals each stave with a ribbon tied and knotted just beneath the portion that will be set to flame. Another tradition fulfilled, Sakura supposes. Though it isn't wrong to forgo the matter of the ribbons, as happened yesterday, it is oddly fitting for it to be completed now, on the last day of burning. Sakura lifts her head, squaring her shoulders as she raises the torch a bit, holding it out in front of her. "Flickering current, they burn and grow, young as they come, and old as they go. Forgive the dead, they didn't know." The blessing is slightly different this time, Sakura knows. But what she also knows is that many names have been hidden forever by the waves for lack of it. When brother kills brother, or father kills daughter, or mother kills son, the sea does not so easily forget. Unless someone pleads on the behalf of the islander who committed such a grave sin, the sea will not easily forgive either. There have been figures written of throughout history whose named stones never returned to shore. And these people, Wave, they need that hope. The hope of their lost ones returning. The hope that the named stones will one day appear on the beach. So Sakura pleads, bending down on one knee and still singing. "O ocean risen, through sea and flow, as the waves rise, so too will the currents build high and low." A loud thunderclap echoes across the field as Sakura touches her torch to the first circlet. A smattering of claps and booms follow as she stands back up, the song of blessing nothing more than a whisper now. "As the sea rises, the ocean too will flow," Sakura finishes, and light rain bursts from clouds overhead. It passes quickly, lasting just a few seconds, but its effect is deafening. Sakura can hear her mother's voice over the fading roar, and she is sure that she is not the only one to hear a lost one. She wonders how long it has been since the proper rites have been completed in Wave. From the ocean's reaction, it has been a long, dry, and painful season. A season of hiding away, ignoring the dead, and hoping for a better tomorrow. Sakura's fire regains its strength, and the dancing of the flames steals Sakura from her thoughts. It is a reminder. She continues. Amiya is at Sakura's side in an instant, a slightly different torch in her grip, unlit. Sakura nods to her, turning to face Amiya. They both lean forward, foreheads touching. As they look down at their hands, Sakura brings her torch close enough for the fire to leap onto Amiya's. They speak together, though Amiya's words are that of her own dialect. The ocean, too, will flow. They both slowly return to an upright posture, turning on their heels and heading in opposite directions. Sakura to the left, and Amiya to the right. When Sakura stops in front of the first Ashioto, he waits for her to raise the torch before dipping his stave into the flames. The steel flames flash, then settle with a crackle. The Ashioto turns from her, slanting his stave toward the Ashioto next to him, and Sakura knows her part there is done. So she turns around once more, taking slow but sure steps back to the 13th column. Like the first day of burning, Sakura falls into the cyclical motions of stepping, kneeling, and then standing up again. This time, however, there are only 5 rows left to alight. Sakura moves methodically down the column, and when she stands after lighting the last circlet, her team is standing right in front of her. Kakashi in the center, with Sasuke and Naruto flanking his sides. Sakura is glad to have remembered to set the torch on the final body. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to burrow herself into Kakashi's arms, sighing in relief at his whispered comforts and strong embrace. Surprisingly, 2 other sets of arms surround her not long afterward, Naruto's furnace heat notably appearing first. Sakura is completely shielded from the world in that moment. "They're resting now, Sakura-chan. At peace in the Pure Lands," Kakashi murmurs into her ear, tightening his arms around her. Sakura almost thinks it a dream, but the presence of her echo lets her know that it isn't. She mentally views the scene in disbelief. If anyone who had known her during the academy saw her in that moment, they wouldn't have believed it. Back then, Sakura defended herself with a fake personality and an even faker obsession. She had maintained her walls even at graduation, almost losing her chance at becoming a shinobi for fear of letting herself go. Now, it was almost as if she was a different person. A different, so much better person. Sakura revels in the team hug for a moment more before moving to step back a little. Sasuke and Naruto quickly get the message, releasing her and moving a bit away. While Sakura's eyes are a little watery, she had spent most of her tears on the first day of burning. Good thing, too. She didn't want Sasuke and Naruto to see her as a blubbering mess. "Thank you," Sakura whispers, attempting to bow. Kakashi's hold on her stops her from bending much, however, so she can only bend her head a little. "You all should return to training." Though Sakura had to stay in order to finish the rites, the boys didn't have to, especially with their confrontation with Zabuza lying imminent in less than 3 days. Opposite to her expectation, all of the boys simply shake their heads. A closed-eye smile spreads on Kakashi's face as he waggles his pointer finger in Sakura's face. "Nuh-uh-uh, Sakura-chan," her sensei denies chastisingly. "You remember our motto, don't you?" It seems almost practiced the way Sasuke and Naruto quote their sensei next, the latter beginning the saying while the former finishes it. "Those who break the rules are scum," Naruto starts, swinging in close on her left. "But those who abandon their friends are worse than scum." Sasuke's tone is one of a grave promise. Sakura hadn't expected the boy's Avenger personality to take Kakashi's first lesson to heart, but maybe something had changed. Burying 100 children, or even just hearing about it, does something to everyone after all. Kakashi snaps his fingers, regaining Sakura's attention. "And you're our friend, right, Sakura-chan?" her sensei asks leadingly. Sakura has to choke back tears as everything hits her at once. She had been pushing people away for so long, she didn't know how to properly let anyone back in. Her echo nudges her, reminding her that there was only one answer to a question like that. One answer for a man like Kakashi and the boys surrounding her. "Yes!" Sakura chokes, and then she burrows herself back into Kakashi's embrace. They may have to fight Zabuza in less than 3 days. The boys may be unable to do the tree exercise just yet, but Sakura has faith in them, faith in her team, And if they're willing to wait hours for corpses to turn to ash, for Sakura to gather the stones, throw them to the waves, and only then return, turning into a blubbering mess might have been worth it. Sakura presses a wobbly smile into Kakashi's chest. Maybe a little more than just worth it.